You know, we live in this age that is just obsessed with optimization. Every single click, every delivery, every moment is being measured and streamlined, all in this relentless pursuit to make everything faster, right? So we can do more with our precious time. And the promise is pretty seductive, painting this picture of a future that's always seamless, always more productive. And smarter, the idea that our devices should just anticipate our every need, sometimes before we even realize we have them. All the little frictions of daily life just smoothed away by code. And of course, the big one, to get more. More output, more convenience, more life packed in. This promise, it's been the engine of progress for decades, an idea that was actually captured perfectly way back in 1997. This whole idea was laid out in a super influential book called Factor 4. And the argument? Oh, it was simple and honestly incredibly compelling. It said if we could just make our technology 4 times more efficient, we could literally double our wealth while cutting our resource use in half. I mean, it's the ultimate win-win scenario. Okay, but what if that whole beautiful equation has a giant, fatal flaw? What if our relentless drive for efficiency doesn't lead to conservation at all, but to the exact opposite? So let's dive into what's known as the Great Efficiency Backfire, a really counterintuitive phenomenon that, believe it or not, helps explain so much about our modern world. The key to understanding this is a concept from way back in the 19th century called the Jevons Paradox. The theory is shockingly simple. When a technology gets way more efficient, the service it provides gets cheaper. And what do we do when things get cheaper? We use more of them. So efficiency actually becomes a catalyst not for saving resources, but for using even more. And you can see this paradox play out over and over again throughout history. Just take the heat engine. I mean, the first one in 1712, total clunker. James Watt's famous engine from 1769 was a huge leap forward, but it still wasted an incredible 96% of the coal's energy. What came next was basically a 300-year arms race for efficiency. And the results? I mean, they were just staggering. Today's engines are about 40 times more efficient than those early prototypes, a 40-fold increase. So based on that factor 4 logic, this should have meant we'd use way, way less coal, right? Yeah, not so much. That massive leap in efficiency didn't lead to conservation at all. It made steam power so cheap and so effective that it fueled the entire industrial revolution, leading to an explosion in fossil fuel use that literally reshaped the planet. Now, you might be thinking, okay, that's an old industrial problem. What about today? Well, the paradox is alive and well. The authors of Factor 4 themselves pointed to laptops back in the 90s, and they noted that they could slash a computer's electricity demand by a whopping 99% compared to the old desktops. Seemed like a clear win for conservation. But we all know how that story went, don't we? That efficiency didn't just lead to us replacing our desktops. It created what you could call a sea of devices. We went from maybe one family computer to having laptops, smartphones, tablets, smart TVs. I mean, even our dishwashers are online now. Each one is pretty efficient on its own, but put them all together and they drive our energy use ever upward. That is technological sprawl, and it's fueled by efficiency. But here's the thing, the cost isn't just about energy or resources. This relentless pursuit of efficiency is actually reshaping our societies and maybe even our own minds. This is where we hit a really fundamental trade-off that honestly we don't talk about nearly enough, the one between efficiency and adaptability. Efficiency is incredible for huge, simple problems like mass producing a vaccine. You want that process to be exactly the same, super optimized every single time. But for complex, nuanced problems like managing an individual patient's healthcare, you need adaptability, you need local knowledge, flexibility, all the things that efficiency-obsessed systems tend to just crush. And this trade-off, it has a deeply human side. Our digital world is an absolute marvel of efficiency, which we usually just call convenience. But there's a great quote from the writer Oliver Pickup that puts it perfectly. The digital world offers neither warmth nor meaning. It offers convenience. This has actually led to this really unique modern problem that some people are calling extended loneliness. It's a weird feeling, right? It's not that we lack connections, we are hyper-connected. It's the feeling of lacking meaningful relationships while being connected to thousands of people online. We've optimized for the sheer quantity of connection, not the quality. And boy, are we feeling the effects.
So, in this mad dash for optimization, we're kind of at risk of devaluing the very skills that actually make us human. Things like collaboration, compassion, and creativity. These things can't be streamlined or automated. They are messy, they're slow, they're adaptable, basically the exact opposite of what pure efficiency demands. And they might just be our most important survival tools for the future.
Okay, so if this hyper-efficiency thing has all these hidden costs, what's the alternative? Is there another way? Well, this leads us to a whole different philosophy, the slow path.
One really interesting idea that's gaining traction is something the author Cal Newport calls slow productivity. It's basically a direct challenge to the cult of more. So instead of optimizing for sheer volume and speed, it's all about doing fewer things, but doing them at a much higher quality and prioritizing meaning and sustainability over just burning out.
And you can actually see this philosophy in action when you look at how we structure our work. Just look at the difference between a typical modern company and what some researchers call an ancestral model of getting things done. In the modern firm, right, managers assign tasks, they control information. In the ancestral model, people choose their own tasks, rewards are based on what their peers think, and information just flows informally. It might be less efficient on a spreadsheet, sure, but it's built to be way more adaptable and way more human. It's funny, these fears we have, they're really not new. Plato tells this great story about an Egyptian king named Thamus who's presented with the invention of writing. And Thamus worries that this amazing new technology for efficient information transfer would create people who just seemed knowledgeable, but who lacked any real wisdom. Does that sound at all familiar? And all of this really boils down to one huge fundamental question that sits underneath everything we've been talking about. In our complex modern world, what is the ultimate goal of all this optimization? Are we building all this for maximum efficiency, or are we building it for human flourishing? Because, as we've seen, those two things, they're not always the same. In fact, a lot of the time, they're pulling in opposite directions. Look, at the end of the day, efficiency is an incredible tool. It's powerful, but it's not the goal. It's a means to an end. And if we're not really careful and intentional about what that end goal is, we might just optimize ourselves into a world that's incredibly productive, but one we don't actually want to live in. Which leaves us with a final question. In our relentless pursuit of speed, what essential human qualities are we choosing to leave behind?